Unlock your dream property with Meeks Realty Group, where Rich the Realtor makes real estate dreams a reality. Whether it's residential or commercial, we've got Charleston to Huntington covered. Your key to exceptional real estate experiences start here. Meeks Realty Group. Contact us at meeks.us.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. From the studios of WVRC Media, the country, the United States of America, the state, West Virginia, the city, Charleston. This is the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live. And your host.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
Hey, folks, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to the show. Ryan Nicholson is our producer today. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly, hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. We do the show from the Par-Bar Store studio. If there's not a Par-Bar store near you now, there will be soon. Par-Bar's latest location set to open tomorrow. It is in Zanesville, Ohio. It's their 237th store, and it's located at 2497 East Pike in Zanesville. If you happen to be in the Zanesville area, you may want to stop by and check it out. Again, it is due to open tomorrow. If there's not a Par-Bar store near you now, there will be soon. Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, also brought to you by Thornhill Auto Group, including Thornhill Toyota. The Toyota Tacoma is your MVP, the most versatile pickup. Head to the road to total savings on US 119 in Chapmanville or visit ThornhillToyota.wv.com. Phone calls to the show, a service of Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly on Spring Street, and texting services provided by West Virginia's finest men's store, Tony the Taylor, Virginia Street in Charleston. Visit BestMasterTaylor.com. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Lots of stuff going on in the area this weekend. Of course, over at the Capitol, we got the special session continuing today. I'll get into that. One particular thing I want to talk about a little bit later on if we have time. Also on the show today, Charleston Mayor Amy Shuler Goodwin will be stopping by. If you got questions or comments, anything relating to the city, now is your chance to weigh in either via the text line or by just calling the mayor when she's on. She'll be on around 9:40 or so. Also, a gentleman by the name of Wes Holden is here. He is an independent candidate running for Congress. We're going to talk to him. Plus, your calls and texts, too, are always welcome. Again, Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly, hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. My thanks to Dale Cooper for sitting in for me on Friday. I had to be away to take care of some business, so thank you so much to Coop for sitting in. From time to time on the show, I like to feature authors, and this gentleman has written a book. And it's certainly something that we all remember well and we're still recovering from a few years ago. The book is entitled Prescription for Pain, How a Once Promising Doctor Became the Pill Mill Killer. His name is Phil Isle, and before I forget, I do want to mention he is going to be making an appearance to discuss the book tonight at Taylor Books, downtown Charleston, starting at 6 p.m. Phil, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Dave.
That is quite an ominous title, but after reading through it, it's a pretty truthful title, wouldn't you say so, sir?
Yes. The doctor at the heart of this book was connected. I mean, estimates vary, but law enforcement looked into as many as over 30 deaths of his patients from apparent overdoses. This is a doctor who was working out of cash-only pain clinics in southern Ohio in the mid-2000s, prescribing prodigious amounts of oxycodone as well as sedatives like Valium and muscle relaxers. They ultimately had enough evidence to link him directly in an indictment with 14 patient deaths. He was indicted in 2007, and at the end of his trial in 2011 in Cincinnati, the jury held him directly responsible for 4 patient deaths. So the Pill Mill Killer is a nickname he got from a TV news reporter in his kind of adopted hometown of Chicago. And, yeah, if you read the book, I think it doesn't feel like too much of an understatement.
And so what led you to want to write this book? And give us the basic synopsis of what the book, I mean, we know what it's about, but what is how did you attack, for lack of a better word, this subject for the book?
So there have been dozens of doctors charged and convicted of drug-related crimes during the opiate epidemic. I'm from Rhode Island, up in New England. It certainly happened in my state. It's happened in California, Texas, all across the country there were these cases. As your readers won't need any reminder, this area of Appalachia, southern Ohio, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, was a particular hotbed of this kind of activity. Now, how did I get interested in this one particular case? It goes back to the fact that Dr. Paul Volkman, the guy at the center of the case, who is now serving 4 consecutive life terms in federal prison, he's out in Arizona, Volkman went to college and medical school with my dad. My dad, who is still a practicing endocrinologist in Providence and Fall River, Massachusetts, is a mild-mannered, nerdy guy. He plays golf. He sings in choirs. He's not the kind of guy you would expect to know someone charged with being a kind of prescription drug-dealing kingpin. And yet that is what happened in 2007. His kind of long-lost, out-of-touch old classmate was charged by the federal government with these horrifying crimes. So that was my entry point. I learned about this a couple of years later. I was a young journalist just getting started. I had read In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, one of the books that made a big impression on me. And all of a sudden, this big story, this dramatic story, and also this mystery of what happened to this guy kind of falls into my lap. It turns out it took me quite a while to solve that mystery, to figure out what happened, to track down people to interview, the various documents, and so on and so forth. But earlier this year, 15 years after I first got interested in the story, the book came out. And the book tells the story of this guy from start to finish, from his early promise as a high school valedictorian, as a guy who got an MD, PhD from the University of Chicago. He had a lot of promise. And then I detail how it all went wrong, first through a series of malpractice lawsuits. Then after those lawsuits added up, he found himself uninsurable, unable to access malpractice insurance. So he wound up answering an online ad for a cash-only pain clinic in the town of Portsmouth, Ohio. And I detail the crimes. And another thing, which took place over the course of about 3 years, another thing that makes this case stand out is that it's kind of rare for people charged with federal crimes to actually go to trial. But Volkman was so insistent on his innocence, even to this day, he maintains he was a good doctor, that his case did go to trial. So there was an 8-week trial in 2011 in Cincinnati. The government called 70 witnesses. Volkman called 10 of his own. And the transcript of that trial is thousands of pages. So I had a lot of material to work with to tell this story, an opiate epidemic story, in kind of a high amount of detail.
And Phil, this is a subject that we can all relate to because everyone listening today has had someone in their family, someone in their neighborhood, someone they worked with, someone they knew or whatever, that fell into the addiction of prescription drugs when they were practically, as you referenced, in many locations, and this is certainly not an isolated case. I'm from southern West Virginia. I saw them, just as you described, these cash-only pain clinics that didn't look anything. When I can remember seeing the coverage, when they were busted, most of these didn't look anything like a doctor's office. There's no magazines in there. There's no plants or whatever. No big signage other than something that says pain clinic. But these pills back at this time were practically being given away like candy in many, many areas. And I talked about this area, but you talked about Rhode Island. It went on everywhere back in those days.
Yeah, the opiate epidemic, we're now coming up on 30 years since OxyContin was first introduced. That was in 1996. That's kind of seen as kind of the big bang moment for this whole thing. So we've been in this for a while, and it's gone through different phases. This story, the crimes take place between 2003 and 2006, is a story from kind of that early first phase where it was really prescription drugs driving the issue. And, around here, there were all too many of these clinics that freely prescribed them. There were pharmacies that just kind of opened the spigot of these pills. Eventually, there was a crackdown on that, a crackdown on clinics like Volkman's, and the supply was diminished. But at that point, a lot of folks, unfortunately, were addicted, and so they turned to heroin initially, and now we're in the kind of third and really awful, fatal phase of this epidemic, of a fentanyl epidemic. So this is kind of a prologue in some ways. This story helps explain, I think, to an extent, even though this is a massive story, how we all got here.
Talking again with author Phil Isle. I was reading the reviews, and everyone from the Boston Globe to the Columbus Dispatch to your peers who have written books similar to yours on the whole pill mill crisis. They've all praised the book. Apparently, you did pretty well with this. And it's a tough subject. I know you probably don't. I mean, you want the book to do well. You want to sell books, Phil, but I don't think that you necessarily are going to take any glory in the subject matter. But your peers are all saying that this is pretty good.
Well, thank you for saying that. I've been so delighted to see the reception. I mean, in my book talks, I say there's a lot of reasons why it took me 15 years to finish this. And I want to give the impression that I was working on the book every day. I had a whole career as a journalist writing about other stuff. I was also a college teacher. But one of the reasons it took me so long was, to your point, Dave, this was really serious subject matter. It was a guy, a very bright guy, who claimed to be wrongfully accused. If that was true, which I didn't wind up thinking it was, that was certainly a story worth telling. But it was also a story of a guy who contributed to, I mean, Portsmouth, Ohio, your listeners might remember, is one of the worst hit places of any town in the country. You know, it's been called ground zero for the opiate epidemic. So this was a guy who was part of that. And as a journalist, there is no bigger responsibility, nothing that I approach with more seriousness and caution than telling the story of folks who have lost their lives. So I really wanted to do that right. I really didn't want this community, which has been, not always treated the best in the press. I didn't want them to feel disrespected by my coverage. Didn't want them to feel like I was just some guy from out of town swooping in one time and then writing a story about one of their worst moments. So I really took my time with this. I mean, it's also my first book. I may have bitten off more than I could chew with choosing this story as my first book. But it's been really heartening to hear some of those reviews and some of the blurbs that you referenced.
Got a text to the show here. We get a lot of texts to the show here, Phil. Somebody said, ask the author if he's ever heard of Phil Fisher from Huntington, who's now serving, I think, 30 years in Florida for actually trying to hire a hitman to kill his sister to gain his parents' inheritance, where he lost everything being a drug-pushing doctor. He was responsible for at least 8 deaths, including his own wife. Are you familiar with that story?
You know, Dave, I'm not, and that's not because it's not an important story. You know, when I go down to this part of the country, whether it's Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, people are always saying, well, have you heard of this case, or have you heard of this pharmacy? There's so many stories just here. Even when I first went down to Portsmouth, I remember talking to a local TV news reporter, asking him if he remembered Volkman. And what I tell in the book is that Volkman came after a number of crooked doctors who were hauled off to prison. And even after he was shut down, a lot of crooked doctors came after him who were hauled off to prison. So even just in Portsmouth alone, there's, maybe a dozen of these doctors. So I haven't heard of that one, but I'm going to go check it out because it sounds like a crazy story.
Where can people get your book? What's the best place to get it?
Well, they can come down to Taylor Books tonight if they want in Charleston. But the book is available wherever people get books. It's in libraries. It's on Audible if they like to listen to books. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. If it's not at your local library or store, ask them to order it, and they should be able to do that. Prescription for Pain. It's really anywhere people get books, they can find it. And again, you're going to be doing an appearance tonight. I know you've been kind of been on a little bit of a tour here. You're going to be at Taylor Books here in Charleston tonight, 6 o'clock. Is that what I said? 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, right? That's right. 6 o'clock. Yep. Author Phillip Isle, I appreciate you being here. Look, it's a very difficult subject, but as I said in the middle part of the interview, it's something that I think everybody can relate to. We wish you the best with it. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for having me on, Dave. Phil Isle, again, the book is entitled Prescription for Pain, How a Once Promising Doctor Became the Pill Mill Killer. Totally a true story. The gentleman, and I use that term loosely, is serving, I think he said 3 to 4 life sentences currently in prison. And again, in this area, it is something that we all can 100% relate to. Biggly Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Meeks Realty Group. Looking for the perfect larger home for your family? Check this one out. 5,600 square feet in Scott Depot, 6 bedrooms, 2 laundry rooms, 4 full baths, and 2 half baths. Also got a pool and a sauna and a 2,300 square foot unfinished basement. You need more information about it? Contact Rich the Realtor, 304-932-7488. We're going to take a break. When we come back a little bit later on, we're going to talk to Mayor Amy Shuler Goodwin of the fine city of Charleston, plus independent candidate for Congress Wes Holden, coming up right after this. So the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses want to thank you for supporting local small businesses.
Welcome to Poca Valley, where we've been in business since 1908. Today, we serve Roane, Kanawha, Putnam, and surrounding counties. We believe you deserve banking that provides friendly customer service. For all of your financial needs, stop by one of our 8 convenient locations. Call us at 844-782-2651 or visit us online at PocaValleyBank.com. Poca Valley, where relationships matter.
Member FDIC.
Creating a better future for West Virginia families. That's the promise of Andrew Anderson. Born and raised in Kanawha County, Andrew Anderson now raises his kids in our community. Andrew Anderson is an engineer and job creator with decades of experience in energy and manufacturing. Andrew will take his experience to the House of Delegates to create more jobs and end the drug abuse crisis that hurts our families. Vote Andrew Anderson for House of Delegates.
I'm Andrew Anderson, and I ask for your vote on November 5th for House of Delegates.
Paid for by Andrew Anderson for West Virginia.
Thank you to our Hurricane High School broadcast boosters, Parmar Stores, Peyton Law Firm, Putnam County Bank, Vital Flow, Rivers Health, Putnam County CVB, and Generations Physical Therapy.
It is 9:23, the Dave Allen Show and 580 Live, brought to you in part by your hometown baseball team, the Charleston Dirty Birds. Birds and our sister station, 107.3 The Beat, invite you to Gomart Ballpark Thursday, October 24th for Trick or Beat, presented by Salango Law. 2 sessions, one at 6 p.m., the other starting at 7:30. Keep in mind, you must have a ticket to be admitted. Tickets are available starting today at our studios during normal business hours, 1111 Virginia Street East in Charleston. Hoppy Kurtz will come up. Metro News Talk Line at 10:06. Brad McElhenney will be along to talk about the special session. Senator Eric Nelson from here in Kanawha County will also be on to give his take on the special session. The U.S. Supreme Court is back in session of the nation's capital today. Jared Halpern, Fox News Radio, is on with that story. Plus Jonathan Savage, also from Fox News Radio, is on to talk about the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. Plus Tony Caridi and the Mountaineers' huge win Saturday over Oklahoma State. Toby Rice, who's the president and CEO of EQT Natural Gas, is on the show today and more. Hoppy with Metro News Talk Line, 10:06 from the Cove Insurance Studios in the Dale Miller Building in Morgantown. Biggly, Piggly, Wiggly, hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor, text 304-935-5008. Wes Holden is a candidate for Congress, District 1. He joins us now in the Parmar Store studio. Wes, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning to you, Dave.
Thank you for being here. First, explain to us the district. You know, we used to have more districts. Now we have 2.
We only have 2.
All right,
that's
so
very sad.
Explain District 1 to us.
Well, District 1 is like take a map of West Virginia, fold it in half. So the top half of the map belongs to District 2. The bottom half of the map belongs to District 1. And then Pendleton County is sort of an anomaly, but it goes pretty far north. Mm-hmm. And when I visited them, they have they're more extended to the north than they are with southern West Virginia. But those are great people up there.
You said when we were setting this up, you said that you thought it was kind of sad that we only have the two districts. Now, why do you think that?
Well, you just think about it. Back in the early 60s, we used to have 5 congressional districts. Mm-hmm. And again, we've had a major loss of population. And I remember when we had 4, and there was an issue with the Eastern Panhandle. They had their own district. And people continued leaving West Virginia because they want to seek a better way of life and get jobs. And you can't blame them. Our young people are leaving, and we have to stop that.
The district is currently served by Congresswoman Carol Miller. Why do you want the seat?
Well, I feel Carol Miller is not representing West Virginians like we need to be represented. And, just take a look at our voting record. Just, 2 quick points I'd like to point out. According to the AFL-CIO, Carol Miller has voted 82% against workers during her 6 years in Congress. And according to the Alliance of Retired Americans, Carol Miller has voted against retirees 92% of the time. And you think about, she claims to want to represent West Virginians, but she's voting against West Virginia's best interests.
Give us the background on Wes Holden.
My background?
Your background. Who are you?
Well, I'm a 10th generation West Virginian. I worked for Senator J. Rockefeller for 30 years while he was a U.S. Senator. I was his Deputy State Director, and I was in charge of constituent services. And I just want to tell a little story. Mm-hmm. When I first started working for him, we got involved handling the typical federal bureaucratic problems. People would come with VA, black lung, Social Security. Then one day I had a gentleman come to me from Winfield, and it was a wet spring, and river barges were tying up to his trees, and because of the wet spring, when the water being up, the barges would pull the trees out of the ground. And so he started having riverbank erosion, got within 30 feet of his house. And he went to Senator Byrd, Arch Moore, Bob Wise, and they couldn't help him, and he came to me. And I said, what do the other officers say? They said, it's not a federal problem. And I got to thinking, what if it was me? Who's going to take care of me and look after me? So I decided I would try to help this guy. So I called rock quarries, I called truck companies, I had to get an emergency permit from the Corps of Engineers. And within a week, through the help of volunteers, because everyone jumped in, and so we saved that guy's riverbank problem. And ever since then, other congressional officers would say, well, we can't help you, but go see Wes. Wes will help you. So, and I would take it on as a challenge. And I remember those were days before you had Google or, that you could look things up. And you just had to think by the seat of your pants. And when I left Senator Rockefeller's office, I had a file drawer stuffed full of different kinds of cases where I went out of my way and helped people. And I put together a little booklet that I'm going to give to the Division of Culture and History, what a real public servant does to help the people of West Virginia. That's what I want to do. As an independent, I don't want to get caught up in partisan politics. I want to get involved in helping people. There's basket loads of millions and millions of dollars in federal grants, and I want to go after that money, work under the radar, and bring that money back to West Virginia where it belongs. We need a shot in the arm, and the Inflation Reduction Act is a way of doing that. And unfortunately, Carol Miller wants to repeal that. But you think about the Inflation Reduction Act, it's $3.1 billion in broadband. We saw during COVID, schools were closed down. Parents would have to drive their kids to a McDonald's just to get hooked up to the internet.
Or sit on the street in front of the library or something.
Exactly. We can't do that. This is much like FDR's rural electrification program. He got that going, and that's how we got electricity and telephone service back in these rural areas. We have to take advantage, and now is a golden opportunity to look ahead. If we don't look ahead, things are going to get terribly worse in West Virginia.
Talking to Wes Holden again, who is a candidate for Congress in District 1, the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, presented in part by General Hardware of Winfield and Milton and General Lumber of Winfield. For all projects, big and small, shop locally. Visit generalhardwarewv.com. All right, so you mentioned that you are an independent.
Yes.
Of course, in the general election in November, voters can vote for anyone, any of the parties. It doesn't matter how they're registered; they can vote for anyone. But why are you an independent?
Well, I am not to the far left, like a lot of Democrats, or the Democratic agenda or platform that they have in Washington. And my opponent, I feel she's a MAGA Republican. And that's a little too far right. And you watch what's been going on in Congress. They have, and the other thing that interested me before I decided to run, Republican congressmen were no longer running for office because they felt they couldn't get the job done that they were elected to do. Well, as an independent, I don't have to have any political party tell me you're going to follow this line or that line. I will do what I want and what I feel the people of West Virginia want. One of the things that I would like to do if I'm elected, I'm no brain surgeon. I don't know everything about everything for different parts of this, district. But I would like to hold town hall meetings to learn what's on the people's minds. Then I feel I could be a much more effective congressman. I don't want to go meet with select groups of people behind closed doors and say I talked to the people in that community. When I've been out campaigning, people, they ask me, what do you want to do and whatever, and they tell me that you should run for governor. We like what you're doing. Well, unfortunately, I can't run for governor. But then when I've been out meeting people, they say, I remember you. I remember you when you worked for Senator Rockefeller. You helped me. I remember one time I met this woman. She said, I remember you. And I started shaking. And she
could be good or bad.
And she poked her finger at me. And she said, I remember you. Your name and phone number is still on my refrigerator because I know who to call where I could go for help.
Talking again with Wes Holden, who is a candidate for Congress. Wes, I think you will admit, and I think anybody would, that it is an uphill climb for anyone that doesn't have an R after their name in West Virginia right now. It hasn't always been that way.
Exactly.
You talked about your time with Senator Rockefeller, but anybody, it seemingly, who doesn't have the elephant beside their name, it's difficult in West Virginia right now, sir.
Well, no, that is a fact. And unfortunately, being an independent, I'm sort of flying under the radar. But ever since last year when I had to start collecting signatures, people are telling me we are glad we have a second option because a lot of people just don't want to vote R or D. They're looking for someone. And so I'm always encouraged, energized when I go out campaigning, meet people. Just this past weekend, I was in Matewan. I was in Yeager and Welch. And, you think, who cares about those counties? But those counties gave us their lifeblood when coal was booming. They feel forgotten about. And a lot of them don't even know who their congresswoman is. And so I had to tell them. And, I won't get into that one thing they said about the congresswoman.
Oh, come on.
Well, they called her Cardboard Carol. And I go, who's that? Why do you call her that? They said, we only see pictures of her. We don't know anything about her. She's never been here. She's not helping us. So those are the people who I want to represent. I want to represent those who don't have an army of lobbyists behind them, who don't cry the loudest, but people who deserve a break and an opportunity. And by going after these federal grants, we can revitalize the coal fields. We can revitalize some of these rural areas that need an economic shot in the arm.
West Virginia has had some good announcements with different jobs, Nucor and some of these other things that have come into West Virginia. And you can always look at you can look at statistics and you can make them say whatever that you want them to say. Some statistics say that people are coming to West Virginia. The problem is that people are dying more quickly because we have the oldest population. How, if you're elected Congress, you got to do a little sell job, whether you're congressman, senator, governor, whatever. What do you tell people that want to? You talked about how many generations your family's been here. What do you tell people about West Virginia?
Well, when I go to, you have to remember the western side of the state is doing well economically. We've had, since the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, we've had 4 major corporations come here. But when I go to Raleigh County, Nicholas County, or the southern part of the state, they say the economic development stops at Kanawha County. Then I go to Monroe County, Gilmer County, Mercer County. They say it all stops at Raleigh County. And what I want to do imitate Senator Rockefeller. He used to have what we call J trains. And he would fill up a bus for businesses or business people in West Virginia, work with the West Virginia Economic Development Office, and bring these businesses to different parts of the state so that they could be interested in maybe starting a new business there or bring a branch business there. That's what has to happen. And West Virginia, rural West Virginia, needs that shot in the arm. We need more funding for infrastructure. We need more funding for education. You can't blame teachers for the problems that they're facing. We have to do more. And, something else that I thought was very sad. I I would, talk to people or county governments. Do you have a grant writer? They don't even have a grant writer. I would like to institute a pilot program to hire grant writers, to get them trained, and then let the government pay. Grant writers have to be specialized. Mm-hmm. You just can't necessarily pick someone off the street.
Very difficult.
Exactly. And there's all kinds of federal programs out there that it's not raising taxes. The money is already there. It's already been allocated. Let's go after that money and put in infrastructure, so new businesses could come here. That's what I want to do. I'm not interested in politics. My job is to take care of my fellow West Virginians.
Where can people learn more about your campaign?
Well, that is a good question. My campaign website is wes4wv.com. If you would like to look at my Facebook, it's Wes, FORWV.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I always do a thing with my candidates, Wes, when I call the final 30, and you're not necessarily on the clock, but give me 30 seconds for the listeners. Why should someone vote for Wes Holden for Congress in District 1?
Well, if being a lifelong West Virginian, it's disheartening to see our state at the bottom of the rankings. In areas such as family income, education, housing, childcare, rural health care, infrastructure, quality of life. For far too long, we've been stuck in a cycle of poverty, underinvestment, and ineffective leadership. West Virginia has been stuck in a state of persistent poverty for years. The root of our problem is just not economic. I believe it's political. Our current leaders seem more interested in culture wars and divisive legislation than addressing the real issues that affect average West Virginians. And I feel every county deserves economic opportunities, not just the counties along the Ohio River.
Wes Holden, independent candidate for Congress in District 1. I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate having the opportunity to let people know more about myself.
Best of luck in the campaign. Hang out with me just 1 second. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is brought to you in part by Live Healthy West Virginia, presented by WVU Medicine. Live Healthy tackles pressing health issues, heart disease, diabetes, and more. It's a podcast offering insights into medical breakthroughs to preventative care, featuring WVU Medicine's expert physicians aimed at fostering healthier lifestyles in and beyond the state. It's a valuable resource for all. Check it out, WVMetronews.com, under the podcast menu, and start your journey towards better health today. Going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Charleston Mayor Amy Shuler Goodwin right after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Are you looking for a technical job in the medical field? Generations is growing and looking to add on job-trained physical therapy techs to our rehab team. To apply, visit one of our 7 convenient locations or simply click on us at generationspt.com.
Republican Eric Nelson is the candidate for state senate that Kanawha County families can count on. Senator Eric Nelson has helped create thousands of good-paying jobs and voted to give West Virginians the largest tax cut in our state's history. Voting for Eric Nelson, you know what you get: better roads, more jobs, lower taxes, and the best education for our children. Eric Nelson supports West Virginia conservative values. Vote to re-elect Senator Eric Nelson. Paid for by the committee to elect Eric Nelson.
As retirement approaches, are you confident in your financial plan? At 4th Avenue Financial, they specialize in helping you to prepare for this important milestone. Whether you're concerned about income, investments, or leaving a legacy, John Burnett provides personalized strategies to ensure a secure and fulfilling retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Trust 4th Avenue Financial to help you retire right with confidence. Your financial goals, their expert guidance. Visit them today at 4thavenuefinancial.com.
Securities offered through Jenny B. Cole Financial Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Jenny B. Cole Advisors Incorporated.
We need leaders in the House of Delegates who know what it takes to create jobs. We need Mark Carter in District 57.
All of us are struggling with the inflation caused by Biden and Harris. I have worked with employers paying great wages to bring them to West Virginia. I'm committed to doing it again.
Mark Carter is running for House of Delegates to improve our economy and create better paying jobs for our families. Let's elect a pro-jobs leader to the House.
I am Mark Carter, and I would appreciate your vote for House of Delegates.
Paid for by Mark Carter for West Virginia.
19 away from 10, the Dave Allen Show at 580 Live, brought to you in part by Husson's Pizza. This month is your favorite Husson's. Get a large 18-inch pepperoni pizza and an 8-inch chocolate chip cookie, only $23.99. Going back to the interview with Phil Isle earlier, text says, Dave, why didn't CEOs from these pharmaceutical companies go to prison instead of getting off of deals to stay in business and keep their billions, says a texter. Texter says, speaking of congressional representatives, not that Republicans or conservatives care about facts and reality, but the facts and reality are Republicans. North Carolina Republicans and their own Alex Mooney voted against funding for FEMA before Hurricane Helene. And the current Republican Speaker of the House refuses to call in the Republican-led Congress for a special session to fund the Helene disaster. The only people conspiring to make things difficult for Americans are Republicans, says a texter. Texter says, unfortunately, the people of West Virginia will vote in Carol Miller again, even after giving herself a $3 million loan for their car business, forgiving herself of that loan, then letting her son campaign for governor on how they helped their employees and what they and how they're fiscally responsible. Bottom dwellers do bottom dweller stuff, says a texter. Text says, an old-timey big government politician go after government grants means tax and spend to me. Text says, Rockefeller brought Toyota to West Virginia. Text says, West Virginia doesn't sound hateful enough to become a West Virginia congressman. He needs to create some fake issues to rage about and some minority group to direct that rage at. Text says, Cardboard Carol, LOL, very Trump-esque, says the texter. Going up on tomorrow's show, West Virginia Secretary of State Mac Warner is going to be here. There is a need, a big one, for poll workers in West Virginia for the general election, particularly in Kanawha and Putnam County. Secretary Warner's office on a massive recruiting campaign now to get poll workers, and we will discuss it with him tomorrow. Plus, coming up on the show tomorrow, Brian McElhaney, if the schedule works out, because, you know, they are in the special session and interims and everything. So, and speaking of which, I got to get this story in before we go to the mayor, and I promise I'll get to the mayor momentarily. As I mentioned, the special session and interims continuing to enter the Capitol Dome. Follow along with Brad, of course, WVMetroNews.com and on the social media platforms and online and on air. With all the talk about surplus funds and the governor's proposed tax cuts, etc., there is one bill that kind of sticks out. Several delegates have introduced a bill requesting the legislature to, quote, not recognize an illegitimate presidential election, end quote. It's House Concurrent Resolution 203, introduced by delegates Margita Mazzocchi of Logan County and delegates Henry Dillon of Wayne, Todd Lagenegger of Greenbrier, and Elias Coob Gonzalez of Randolph. I'm not making this up. The bill says, quote, the Democrats-led regime has utterly failed and continued to fail in a suspicious manner in its absolute duty to adequately protect the nominee for president. The resolution goes on to say there is an abundant evidence that non-citizens have been and are being registered to vote in the national election of 2024, among other suspicious acts, and the state will not recognize the elected president in 2024. But oh, wait, it gets better. The resolution continues that West Virginia will not recognize any Democrat candidate for president if the Republican candidate is assassinated, injured during an assassination attempt, incarcerated, or in any way barred from any state ballot. I'm seriously not making that up. I wish I were. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you part by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Let me welcome into the show now Charleston Mayor Amy Shuler Goodwin. How you doing?
Great. How was your chili eating contest this weekend?
Tasting. Along with Brian Hughes of 13 and Senator Eric Nelson and Jay Silverman of the Dirty Birds got tasked with being a chili judge in the Fall Y'all competition in St. Albans. Big party. It wasn't just that.
No, it's really great. It's a great, a lot of folks go. It's a great time. I always get nervous doing those things. I always get nervous. Although I will brag, my husband won like 20 years ago, the Charleston chili cook-off. Many years ago.
Well, we don't know.
I'm not the cook.
People don't understand, though, when you judge these things, if you do them right, we don't know who we're voting on.
Yeah, that's right. I know, but it's still stressful.
All we get is a number, and then afterwards somebody will comment here and there, but we don't know. It's just
they give you a number and a cup.
Well, now that... I don't know why I found that statement funny. Now that you have dual citizenship with WVU and Marshall as one of the Goodwin youngins is playing in the band at Marshall. Right. Saturday was a good day for Marshall's homecoming and for WVU
day
as well.
Yeah, it was a great day. Great day. My husband is one of those crazy tailgaters that likes to have the TV in the back of the car. He does that. So as we're watching the Marshall game, he's running back to watch the TV at halftime for the WVU game. But it was great. Just amazing energy in Huntington over the weekend, and they did great. I mean, both teams. That's I hate to say this, but my dad was disappointed in the outcome of the Steelers-Cowboys game.
I was going to say that
because my people are Steelers people. Sorry about that, but they are.
Sorry, Ray Whiting, because I know he listens to the show.
I love him.
Love him too, except for that 3 hour. The game was delayed by lightning.
I know.
And it didn't.
My nephew was there. I know.
It didn't end till 1 o'clock.
I know.
And guess who stayed up till 1 o'clock to watch it this morning?
Me.
Oh yeah, I did.
You and Ray.
Yeah, me and Ray.
Yeah,
back texting back and forth. But I'm going to say this, and I'll go. How about them Cowboys? All right. So,
Ray, I'm sorry.
City Council meets tonight.
City Council.
What's on the agenda?
Just a couple of things. It's the real work that we do. Every day, authorizing officers to be prevention police officers in some of our schools. Capital and GW, just to name two. A lot of grants and grant submissions. We get approval to do a lot. Council, sometimes lasts just an hour, but it takes us months and years to do a lot of the work that we do. And you see that in, as I always say, sometimes a vote will take, 90 seconds on something that we've worked on for 2 weeks. And that's kind of the agenda tonight. Mainly the real work of city government, making sure that we're providing our police officers the equipment that they need, and our IT departments the equipment that they need, and continuing with our banking services. Votes like that. That's what you get normally out of city council, truthfully, is us just monitoring.
Don't mind Ryan. We got a computer
Ryan,
issue.
Hey, it's good to see you.
He's working on there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That the work that we were elected to do every day. It's not the sexy work. But, October is a very busy month in the city of Charleston. Lots of events are happening in the city of Charleston. I will say this. There are two
I know what you're going to say before you say it.
Ready? Yeah. There are more calls about Halloween and when Halloween is in the Christmas parade probably than any other call, with exception, which I'll tell you what those are. Those are the 31st. Is a trick or treat, not only in the city, but the entire county. And then, of course, our Christmas parade is on, which we're getting ready to announce the theme. I didn't realize people really liked the theme, but they really do. People are asking me about a theme now since we started a theme a couple of years ago for our evening parade. That's going to be on Thursday, December 5th. There are going to be applications to be in the parade that are going to open up this week. But those are two calls we get. But the main call that we get between October and November are about, and by the way, this is the number one call that we get, although a lot of proactive calls happen this way, are about leaves. Leaves. When people say, let me tell you what people are saying in the city of Charleston, Amy, this is what people are talking about. And you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. I know what they're talking about because I keep a record of every single call that comes in. Who's calling me? Why are they calling me? Did we fix their problem? Did we not fix their problem? And the number one, far and away, since we've started many years ago, actually keeping a tab and a system, which is called Q Alert. It's a customer management system. You're my customer. Yeah, you're calling in, but I look at you as a customer of mine. You pay our salaries. What am I doing for you today? It's about leaves, and we start leave collection on October the 28th. And keep in mind, some years it's been kind of weird because the same trucks that we use to do the leaf collections are same trucks that we use to do our salting and our snow removal. Our scrapers are put on. It takes a while, by the way. You can't just pop one of those babies on and off. It takes our team a while. But just so people know, because it is the number one call we have gotten for the past years and years and years in the city of Charleston, during your normal trash collection day, you can shove those leaves or have them ready by the side or in front of the house. Please don't put them in drains. Please don't put them in drains. You may bag them. A lot of people don't do them. But if you bag them in bags, we will pick them up. But we suggest that people put them out there, and we will pick them up then. A lot of people will say, well, can you come back and get us? Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. A big windstorm or a big rainstorm, our guys are flying all over the city of Charleston. But for the most part, it's Kanawha City on Monday and Tuesday. If you live in the South Hills area, it's Wednesday and Thursday. And West Side, North Charleston, East End, that's on Friday. So Kanawha City, Monday, Tuesday, South Hills, Wednesday, Thursday, West Side, North Charleston, East End are on Friday. And, we get a lot of calls. We'll take those calls, 348-8000. If you have a question about it, if you want to know some specifics about it, but it is the thing that we do. We do municipal government. I know everybody wants us to get in here and start yelling and screaming. The work that we do is work for the people. The work that we spend the most time on, by the way, is things like, leaf collection. And by the way, we're the only city that does this.
Yeah. I was going to ask you.
Not other cities do this.
I'm glad that you explained how it worked, because for those of us that don't have that service in some towns we live in.
And I'll be honest with you, there has been conversation of, do we do this? We do it because we want to keep our drains clear and free. All other communities that I personally know of, somebody can tell me one and I just don't know, don't do it because it is extremely time consuming. And we can't get everybody. We just simply can't get everybody all the time. And oh, by the way, when you want us to be there, sometimes we've already gone by, or sometimes you say, well, I'm off work on Saturday and Sunday, and so I pushed them all too. But the rain or the wind came on Monday, Tuesday, and so by Wednesday, all my leaves are gone. We try to do our very, very best, and so we get a lot of calls about that, and our guys take a lot of grief. But it is a service we do not charge for, but it is very time consuming and it is costly. But we do believe that there is savings at the end of the day. But again, this is our municipal work that we do. We just wrapped up paving. This paving cycle, I will say, it really made me, I'll be honest, really made me nervous in the beginning because we started a smidge late than we normally start, but they got it done in record time. A couple things we had to go back and just tweak, but this has been, knock on Formica, this has been one of the better paving seasons. And, everybody wants every paved, road paved, and every pothole. You can still make those calls to us, by the way. And by the way, asphalt plants still open. We can still go out and cold patch, which I have done. It's really difficult to do. Yeah. It's hot and it's a lot of upper body strength. So it's a good workout for me when I go do it. But we can still do that. So please don't stop calling. And also, I talked to a big group that was on Alexandria Place who said, you did 2 other roads right beside mine and you skipped my road. Why did you do that? Well, because I got to do 2 new drains there this fall. And I didn't want to pave a road and, by the way, rip it up then redo it. Makes by sense. The way, that happens and it drives me nuts. But accidents happen, and some of our utilities, we pave it, and our utilities come in and say, no, we have a busted line, or we have to do this, and we work with them to make sure that they're picking up the cost for that. But it's troublesome. There's no question about it.
9:54. Speaking of potholes, I got a text about one.
Good. Tell me where
I'm going to take a break, and I'll talk about this person's pothole. I do want to remind you, this is the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Bridge Valley. Interested in improving your company's IT workforce? Know that they offer custom-tailored IT training to bridge the skills gap. You can train for little to no cost, 50-50 salary match. They can also supply skilled graduates and apprenticeships for your company. Visit bridgevalley.edu/apprenticeships today. Back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses care for your family.
Sick of negative headlines coming out of the Capitol and around West Virginia? Think the government should just work?
I'm Kayla Young, and as your delegate, I focused on putting money back in your pockets through tax cuts, fixing childcare, protecting our kids from abuse and neglect, and just making sure that everyone's getting along by working hard for you instead of culture wars that make your life worse, not any better. Like you, I know we still have some work to do.
This November, vote Kayla Young for House of Delegates to make West Virginia the best it can be and to make government more boring. Paid for by Kayla Young for West Virginia.
Calling all sports fans this season, the Toyota Tacoma is your MVP. Most versatile pickup. Hey, it's Sydney. And whether you're hauling gear or heading out for a weekend adventure, the all-new 2024 Toyota Tacoma has you covered. Ready to win? Drive off in a new Toyota Tacoma today with rates as low as 4.99% APR. It's game time at the new Thornhill Toyota. Your new Tacoma is waiting on the road to total savings. US 119 in Chapmanville and ThornhillToyotaWV.com. Every fan, every team, every season, go Thornhill. All offers through Toyota Financial. See Thornhill for full details.
My weekly card game.
Visits from my grandkids.
Volunteer tutoring. No matter what the best part of your week is, if you're 75 or older, or 60 or older with certain health conditions, the most important thing on your schedule should be talking to your doctor about an RSV vaccine, because vaccines are the best protection from getting very sick, and no one has time for that. Risk less, do more. Get started at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This is J.B. Akers, one of your delegates in Kanawha County. I'm asking for your vote in this November's election for the privilege to continue representing you as a Republican in the legislature. As your delegate, I take a common-sense approach to solving our challenges. I will always work hard for better jobs, better roads, and better schools for you and your families. My name is J.B. Akers, and I will be honored to have your vote so that together we can take a common-sense approach to making our state a better place to live. Paid for by J.B. Akers for West Virginia.
9:57. Older adults should protect themselves against severe respiratory disease. Talk to your doctor about flu, COVID-19, and RSV vaccines. Risk less, do more. Get started at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Resources. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Pinnacle Consultants. Poor indoor air quality can cause a variety of health issues. Pinnacle offers specialized indoor air quality services for residential, commercial, and industrial-type settings. Visit pinnaclecorp.net, because what you don't know can't hurt you. Tex Mayor says, I know it's a state road, but can the city do anything to address the 35th Street manhole? That thing is messing up cars by the day.
Yeah, I will. Obviously, I will send this to our DOH liaison. But I will say this. I appreciate you letting me know, because, yes, I mean, other mayors, we have this conversation all the time. Nothing frustrated me more, though, when I was not mayor, to say, yeah, but I live in the city, and this is a road in my city. I don't really care who owns it, and really they shouldn't. Yeah. You shouldn't care who is supposed to be maintaining the road. If it's in these 33 square miles, let me know about it. Doesn't mean I can do anything about it immediately, but what I can do, and what you pay me to do, is to work with them and have good relationships to say, can we get this fixed? Because everybody knows McCorkle and Kanawha City has been a trouble for a very long period of time.
Let me get a couple more in. FYI for the mayor, she passed this on her way to work. There's a flag sign that's been up for over 6 weeks. Signs that stay up for long periods of time cause accidents at the three-way stop on Oakwood Road.
Flag signs.
That's what it says. I guess they're saying flag her ahead is kind of what I took that, and that there actually is nobody there.
Okay.
And we see that a lot. We do see that, and not just here, but in other places as well. So the mayor's looking into it. Texas, for the mayor, my mother lives on Hendricks Avenue, and there are, of all things, raccoons around her house. Huh? The horrific thing is they're eating baby kittens.
Ooh.
Isn't that what Trump said? Can someone please do something about the raccoons? Raccoons and leaves, Mayor.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. Yeah, listen, I mean, I live in a wooded area as well. We lost all of our chickens to coyotes.
You had
all
chickens?
Of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 6. I don't want to talk about it. It's bad. Yeah, it was. We were devastated.
Victims of foul play.
Devastated. Very funny, very funny. I do appreciate the caller, though, and I will.
She'll look into all those. Also, do want to remind you that the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you by Brightway Insurance Maze Agency. All right, so
Food Truck Wednesday. Yeah,
Food Truck Wednesday coming up, and City Council tonight.
Yeah, City Council tonight. Food Truck Wednesday, 11 to 2, City Center. Good stuff.
All right, Mayor, I appreciate you being here.
Appreciate you.
I gave you some homework. Go work on these things.
I know.
All right. Coming up on tomorrow's show, the need for poll workers in West Virginia, plus more in the special session. Hoppy coming up at 10:06 with Talkline. See you tomorrow. Till then, have fun and love somebody.
WCHS AM, 96.5 FM Charleston, 104.5 Cross Lanes, a WVRC media station. We're proud to live here too.